Chiefs, Chargers, week 1 NFL football. We are finally back, and it is here. Cannot wait for kickoff on Friday night today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back for another episode of Locked On Chiefs, your daily podcast covering the Kansas City Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you for making Locked On Chiefs your first listen today. We really do appreciate it. Go check out another Locked On show, maybe Locked On NFL, Locked On Fantasy Football, or maybe go check out the Locked On Chargers, as we will be talking about that game and getting ready for that game this entire week. Cannot wait. It is finally here. The NFL season is back. I am your host, Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. Been covering this team for about 9 years now on this podcast. Been doing podcasting for about 10. Been covering the Chiefs for probably about 12 to 13 years. This is where you're going to find it all. We're going to have you covered every single day of the week on Locked On Chiefs. Thank you for listening. We really do appreciate it. There's going to be a ton we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about how this is a divisional start. And on the first week of the season, that is not something that's been normal for Kansas City. It is a huge game, week 1 for the Chiefs. We're going to talk about Mahomes and his receivers and their continuity leading into this game and what it's going to mean for this team. But we're going to start talking about how the Chiefs are going to be heading to Brazil in just a couple of days. They're going to be leaving on Wednesday to go down to Brazil to get ready for the game on Friday. Today on Locked On Chiefs, that's going to be our focus. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase today at Game Time. Lots of stuff to talk about when we talk about this Kansas City Chiefs team and how it's going to relate to the Chiefs headed to Brazil. This is a unique opportunity for Kansas City. They're going to be playing in front of an international stadium and an international community. Going to Brazil is going to present its own issues for Kansas City. The travel is going to be an issue, but at least they're going to get an extra day's rest since they're playing on Friday, a couple extra days rest since they're playing on Friday night. Their flight, though, is going to be, I believe, between 14 to 15 hours just to get down to Brazil. So the travel there is going to be significant. The one nice thing is you're not going to be dealing with a ton of time zone changes. So that is going to not have to play into as huge of a factor for Kansas City. But Kansas City is kicking off the season. We're less than a week away from the first kickoff. I absolutely cannot wait for football. I'm so happy it's back. There's so much to talk about when you look at this organization and you look at this team and what this is going to mean for this team and for really the Chiefs just in general in the international community. Kansas City goes into this game against the divisional foe in the Chargers, and this game is going to set the tone for the 2025 season. There's been a lot of questions about Kansas City and how this is going to play out for them. We saw week 1 where Mahomes came in, threw a touchdown to Jason Brownlee, and that's basically the only thing he did week 1 in the preseason. Week 2 didn't play. Week 3 he played, and he looked pretty good. The first team offense looked really good for the Chiefs in that game against the Chicago Bears. This team will have about 2 weeks from the final preseason game to the first game of the season. That is going to be something, obviously, that's why Andy Reid changed how they were going to do things. There's a little bit more time trying to figure out what you're going to do, how you're going to get set up for the season, how this season is going to kick off. And we're going to get a first glance at what this Chiefs team can look like offensively and defensively in Brazil. It's a huge test for Kansas City because, as I said, it's against the Chargers. We'll get to talking about that a little bit later on. But when you start looking at what this is going to mean for this team, they're headed to Brazil. They're going to be basically the face of the NFL in Brazil because they are the face of the NFL pretty much across the world right now. And they have another chance to expand that reach, and they're going to have that chance in Brazil. I'm going to be very curious to see what they do offensively. Are they going to be a team that's going to come out and throw the ball a lot, even though you're not going to have Rashee Rice because he's suspended for the first 6 weeks? Are they going to be a team that comes out and tries to run the ball with Pacheco and with Kareem Hunt? Is that the direction they're going to go? I do expect this offense is going to be ready to go. They're going to have a good test against the Chargers, but I do think that they're also going to come out, and I do think that you're going to see basically what we saw in the preseason. I think they're going to be taking shots deep. They're going to try to show the NFL that they have the ability to throw the ball deep again. And the biggest question mark when you look at this game and how it's going to play out for the Chiefs on offense is going to all come down to that left guard position with Kingsley Suamataia. Because the reality is when you look at this team and you look at how it's set up, they have the receivers, even without Rashee Rice. You have Xavier Worthy. Hollywood Brown's going to be available and should be ready to play in this game. Tyquan Thornton is going to be available in this game. They have Jason Brownlee, who I will be surprised a little bit if he's suited up for this game, but you have him to have out there if you want him available in this game against Brazil. You have all these players. I do think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have a much bigger impact on this game and probably for the first 6 weeks than he will have the rest of the season once Rice comes back. So watch that as well. But the reality is this team is going to be attacking. I do think that what you saw in the preseason is going to finally come to fruition in the regular season. I fully expect Kansas City to throw the deep ball at least 3 times in this game, if not 4 or 5. I do think that they're going to try to take advantage. But the big question, and it's going to be the focus of everything when it comes to week 1 for the Chiefs in this offense, is going to be Kingsley Suamataia. If he can step up and he can take care of pass protection for Patrick Mahomes, this offense is going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun to watch the entire season, because that will give them the ability to throw the deep ball, to attack downfield, and to do different things. If he struggles, and we will find out week 1 against a good Chargers pass defense, if he struggles with the pass rush and Mahomes is getting hit, or Mahomes has somebody in his face because Kingsley misses somebody, that's going to be a problem, and it's going to have to change what this Chiefs offense is going to be doing all season, and that's not the direction you want it to go. You obviously want to see this Chiefs offense, these wide receivers, take shots deep down the field. You want to see the deep shots because it's also going to open up what you are able to do with Travis Kelce in the intermediate routes, Tonyan as well as Noah Gray. You have those 3 tight ends that are going to be able to attack in the intermediate areas, and you actually have somebody that can step in and somewhat give you, to an extent, what Travis Kelce does at times with Tonyan and Gray. Obviously, it's not Travis Kelce. There's nobody that's going to be replacing him, but you feel like this offense has the ability to attack with the skill positions at tight end, at wide receiver, and even really in the passing game. If you talk about Rashee Smith coming out of the backfield, I do think that they're going to be in a position where maybe he is lined up against some of the linebackers and it takes advantage that way. So that's going to be something to watch. I cannot wait for this game. It is week 1 of the NFL season. Something is going to be happening. We're finally going to see real football. We're going to finally see a full game. Patrick Mahomes, this Chiefs offense, this Chiefs defense. And there's lots of different questions when you start talking about the defense, how that's going to play out with a guy like Drew Tranquill, who hasn't played at all. Christian Fulton hasn't played much, but he's playing against his old former team in the Chargers right now. So that's going to be something to watch in this game as well. I cannot wait for football season. I cannot wait for kickoff on week 1. We have a ton to cover this week. We're going to be talking about Derek a little bit later. Going to be doing the crossover show, and we will have you covered with our own preview as well. And then obviously post-game, we will have you covered as well for the Chiefs Chargers. So be looking for that. When we get back, we're going to talk about Mahomes and his wide receiver continuity, something that he hasn't had in Kansas City for a while, but should be something that will help him this year, coming up next. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by the fans cheering on your team. There is no place better than Arrowhead. You need to make sure to check it out this season, but let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle between queues, login screens, and price jumps at checkout. It's very frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives you the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you pay. I just pulled up the Game Time app, and in just a couple taps, I saw a couple amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. Zone deals are amazing. Go pick the section. Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and less stressful than any way I've ever bought. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sunday football. And who cannot wait for the Chiefs to kick off against the Chargers this week? Lots of great bets on FanDuel. Go check them out. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Go check that out. Go fill out a survey. Let us know what we can do better at lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thank you very much for that. We do appreciate it. Kansas City has struggled at wide receiver at times over the past couple of years with Patrick Mahomes. Ever since they traded away Tyreek Hill, this has been an issue. At times, you've had question marks at the wide receiver position. Can people get releases? Can they win against press coverage? Can they win against zone coverage? Are they going to be able to open up? Or are they going to be able to give Mahomes windows to throw into? The most interesting part about that last part, though, about the windows, is Mahomes kind of changed what he's been doing so far in his career. He hasn't thrown back shoulder throws. He hasn't really thrown to guys that are specifically covered and given them a chance to fight for balls. But he has shown in preseason that he's done that with Rashee Rice a couple of times. He did that to Brownlee on the touchdown in preseason game number 1. So you have to wonder if that's going to be something that's going to be added to his game this season. But the bigger question and the bigger thing that could play into Mahomes' favor this season compared to others is the continuity that he's going to have with his wide receivers. Obviously, we know that week 1 and through the first 6 weeks of the season, you're not going to have Rashee Rice. You're not going to have a number 1 guy who I really think, if he had a full season healthy, had a chance to be an all-pro. And I still think in 2026, he has a chance to be an all-pro wide receiver because I think that's the kind of connection he has with Patrick Mahomes, and that's the type of player he is. He is fantastic at getting yak yardage after the catch, and Mahomes is great at leading him into those areas. So I do think that he's going to be a huge addition when you get into week 7 and beyond for Kansas City. So that will be something to watch. But you have year 2 of Xavier Worthy in this offense. You have year 2 of Hollywood Brown in this offense. Even though he didn't play a lot last year, he had a ton of snaps with Patrick Mahomes in training camp. He had snaps with practice with him at the end of the season and throughout the playoffs. He knows this offense. Mahomes knows what he has in Hollywood Brown. Those two getting started in week 1, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. Something we didn't get a chance to see last year, and Hollywood didn't even play in the preseason. So that'll be something to watch when we get into week 1 against the Chargers. But then you look at some of the other guys that he's going to have when it comes to the continuity. Obviously, he has Travis Kelce. We know that he knows what Kelce is going to do. Same with Noah Gray to an extent. You saw at times last year, Mahomes took advantage of what he knew Gray was going to do, hit him for some big games and some touchdowns. I do think that's going to continue this year. But when you start talking about wide receiver continuity, you look at a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, who has been here for several years with Patrick Mahomes. He went to New England for a year, but he came back last year. Mahomes knows what Juju's all about. He's going to have a bigger role in this offense because of what you have seen from or what you're going to have with Rashee Rice being out for the first 6 weeks. I do think that he is going to take on the possession type role. I'll do a lot of the same things that they would be having Rashee Rice do. Juju will do instead, and he has shown that he is healthy this year. He looks better, and I'm not going to say necessarily more explosive, but he does look like he has a little bit more speed than maybe he had even last year. So I think he's going to have a great season, especially the first 6 weeks with this Chiefs team. But when you start talking about the continuity, you start looking at Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice when he's able to come back. But you also obviously look at Juju Smith-Schuster. Those 4 guys Mahomes has experience with. You are not coming in and bringing in a whole bunch of new guys at the wide receiver position that are going to be his main targets at that wide receiver position. Yes, Jalen Royals is going to be somebody that will eventually come in and take some snaps and really help, I think, in this offense doing different things. I'm not sure he plays week 1. He's the only player that didn't practice on Sunday, so that's going to be something to watch, obviously. But you look at having another year under his belt, having all of training camp, connecting with Xavier Worthy on deep balls, having all of training camp, connecting with Xavier Worthy on different types of passes, and watching Worthy go up against and say that he is loving going up against a guy like Trent McDuffie, who is the Chiefs' best corner and easily one of the best 10 corners in the NFL, in my opinion. That is something that you absolutely want from a guy that came in, had a good year last year, not a great year, but had a good year, did a lot of things that he wasn't expected to have to do because you had injuries with Hollywood Brown, you had injuries with Rashee Rice, then you bring in DeAndre Hopkins. Worthy is going to be in a position where he's going to be better off this year because of what he got forced in to do last season, and that's going to benefit him. You have Hollywood Brown coming in, who Mahomes has experience with and is going to be on the same page with. Then you start looking at the new guys. Then you start looking at Tyquan Thornton. You look at Jason Brownlee. You look at Nico Remigio, who's been here but hasn't had a ton of experience with Mahomes. But Thornton is going to be the deep ball threat. That's generally what he does, and that's generally what he does best. And he's going to be on the field trying to take the top off the defense, threatening the deep ball. And you saw in preseason game number 3, Patrick Mahomes hitting the deep ball to Tyquan Thornton. That's encouraging because it's not something that was in this offense last year because you had so many injuries and you had issues at the offensive line. One of the biggest things that they had to do in the 2024 season is they absolutely had to rebuild that wide receiver position. You go out and you add Hollywood Brown. It didn't work out because Hollywood got hurt. He missed most of the season. You go out and you draft Xavier Worthy, who played well but wasn't able to do what you expected him to do with being the deep threat that you were hoping that he could be because you lost so many other things at the wide receiver position. Rashee Rice, who looked phenomenal in 2023, gets hurt in 2024 after starting the season looking like he's going to catch fire and catch maybe 1,500, 1,600 yards. So then you're looking at going into 2025 and you still have needs at the wide receiver position to an extent. So you bring back Hollywood Brown. You keep him here. You give Mahomes continuity with one of his wide receivers from last year. Rashee Rice is back. He looks like he's going to be in phenomenal health, and he's going to be somebody that is going to really threaten when he comes back in week 7. But you have Xavier Worthy here that's going to be here for another 2 or 3 years at least past 2025 because he's a first-round pick. You now go out and you bring in a Jalen Royals, who's going to be another guy that can build chemistry with Mahomes over this season and going forward. But you also have Juju Smith-Schuster, who looks like he's in better health than he has been in several seasons. If he has a big start to the year, this Chiefs wide receiver core is going to be stacked, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. They had Tyquan Thornton here last year. He was on the practice squad, so he wasn't playing, but they did have him here last year. So it's possible he got some snaps with Mahomes in practice that we don't really know about. But the reality is that you've continually tried to build this wide receiver position, and now you're in a situation where you have guys that have played with Patrick Mahomes for a couple of years, and you have wide receivers that you actually feel good about going into this game against the Chargers, and you're going to get a good test against the Chargers to find out exactly what this passing game is capable of, because you are going to try to take the top off the defense with your 3 speedsters. Hollywood Brown's going to probably be trying to take the top off the defense, as well as Xavier Worthy and Tyquan Thornton. You can have all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time with Rashard Smith in the backfield and Travis Kelce if you want, and you're going to scare the living daylights out of most defenses because the amount of speed you're going to have between your 3 top wide receivers at that point and Rashard Smith is going to be insane, and any of them can take a deep shot. All 4 of those guys could take deep shots. Rashard Smith's shown that he can do it out of the backfield, take a seam route, and challenge a defense. And if he gets a linebacker, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So I'm excited to see what this wide receiver core can do. Obviously, we know what we have with Travis Kelce. We know what the Chiefs have with Noah Gray. Tonyan is going to be something that's going to be a little bit of a wild card. He looked phenomenal in the preseason, and it looks like he can be a solid addition and be very fun to have on this offense. And I wonder how much they're going to use 3 tight end sets with Tonyan and Gray and Kelce on the field at the same time. But that kind of takes away from one of your strengths right now, which I do think the wide receiver room is a strength. Wouldn't have said that last year. Even when they were mostly healthy, I wouldn't have said that last year, but I do think it's going to be a strength for the Chiefs in 2025. I cannot wait for this game. There's so much to talk about when we get into talking about the Chargers. I cannot wait to talk to the Locked On Chargers hosts here in a couple of days. But when we get back, we're going to talk about the Chargers specifically and how the Chiefs, generally speaking, haven't been playing against divisional opponents week 1 and how this is such a big game for the entire season coming up next. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is finally here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun, ways to compete, and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew? No problem. Join a public league. It is the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off on September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions that I wasn't even using. Canceling those alone saved me money every single month. I absolutely love Monarch Money. I've been using it for over a year now at this point. It is a phenomenal tool. Love being able to see my net worth at a glance. Love to be able to see when my bills are coming due. It is a fantastic app. You absolutely need to check out Monarch Money. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. Interestingly enough, this game is going to mark the third time in the Andy Reid era that they have faced the Chargers in Week 1. It is the only team in the division that they have faced in the Andy Reid era in Week 1, and they are 2-0 so far, so we're hoping that they will end up going 3-0 against the Chargers in Week 1. I'm interested to see if this is a trend that the NFL continues, because if you look at the NFL schedule across the entire league, they went with a ton of Week 1 divisional games. I don't know if that's a change in the format of what they're wanting to do with trying to get more competitive games in Week 1, because if you look at the NFL in the past, generally speaking, Week 1 games have been struggles for a lot of teams in the NFL. There have been a lot of losses that you wouldn't expect for several teams. Go back, look at Cincinnati last year. Cincinnati lost to the Patriots the first week. Not something that was expected. So you have to wonder if the NFL is looking at this going, what can we do to make these teams be more focused and try harder to win Week 1 and be ready to play Week 1 versus having a bad first month of football, which a lot of September generally can be for some teams. Not Kansas City. Kansas City's been very good in September. But when you start looking across the NFL, Buffalo usually loses early. Pittsburgh in the past has lost early. Obviously, Cincinnati has struggled early on, and that's cost them at times throughout the career of Joe Burrow. So you have to wonder if this is the NFL's way of looking at this and saying, okay, we need to try to force the NFL teams to be more focused and more ready to play come Week 1, and we're going to do that by making divisional games, because divisional games are huge when it comes to playoff seeding and who's going to win the division if you're going to host a hometown game in the playoffs or not. Chargers hosting the Chiefs in Brazil is going to be front and center because they're going to be the only game on Friday night. That's going to be something that will cause a lot of people to watch them. But obviously, internationally, Brazil is now going to be seeing the Chargers and the Chiefs. I do think the Chiefs are going to love being able to get a lot of fans in the international market from Brazil. But what this is going to mean for this franchise, what this is going to mean for this season, is you get to see Patrick Mahomes finally go up with some of his wide receivers. He's not going to have all of his weapons, obviously, because of Rashee Rice, but it is going to be a situation where you get to see, can they stack up? Can they get to a point where they're able to attack downfield? Can they continually keep Patrick upright and not let him get hit like he was during the season last year? And can they attack downfield with the ability of the line to hold up? Like I said earlier in this show, Kingsley Suamataia is going to be a huge key into how this season goes. If he can continue to get better, he didn't look great. He didn't look bad week 1. He didn't look great in week 2 when he did play, but he did look better in week 3. Is it great? No. But is it better? Yes. Can he continue to move in that direction? He's a young player getting a lot of time with another young player in rookie Josh Simmons next to him, who I don't have any concern about. If those two are able to get on the same page, and if Suamataia can get on the same page as Creed Humphrey, and they can get all of those guys working together on that left side of the line, I do think that this offense is going to be something that's going to take this Chiefs team a long way this season. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch because you're going to be able to attack downfield. You're going to be able to open things up. And Andy Reid has something new every single year. When he comes into week 1, there's going to be a new wrinkle that you haven't seen before. And I cannot wait to see what it is against the Chargers this year. I do think it's going to be a lot of fun. Is it going to be a deep ball? Is it going to be some kind of trick play? What is Kansas City going to bring out that is going to be different than what they've done in the past? But the other side of this that is so exciting for me is, what does this defense look like? Because we haven't really had a chance to see the entire defense together, whether it's Christian Fulton not being able to play, or Drew Tranquill not being able to play, or just all of the different players on this defense being healthy at the same time and being ready for week 1. I think this is going to be something to watch all season long. Can this defense be at least a top 15 defense? If they can do that, it makes things so much easier on the offense. But specifically in this game, what thing that the Chargers have always wanted to do under Jim Harbaugh is they've wanted to run the ball. You look at Joe Alt, he is now going to be the left tackle because of the injury to Rashawn Slater. That also means Trey Pipkins is going to be the right tackle. That's something that I think the Chiefs can take advantage of. But are they going to be able to run the ball like they want to? Because if they run the ball like they want to, the only way they're going to be able to stick with that is if they can keep Patrick Mahomes off the field and keep them from scoring. If this Chiefs offense goes down and puts up 21 points in the first half, the Chargers aren't going to be able to run the ball as much as they want to. I don't think the Chargers are going to put up a ton of points against this Chiefs defense. Yes, is it quite possible, and I would almost even argue probable, that when you get into week 1 and maybe the first drive, maybe even the first 2 drives, the Chargers score points? Because Kansas City's defense has historically not been something that has been great coming out of the gate in games early on. They've usually maybe let the team score first in the first drive, maybe the first 2 drives, and then they figure things out, they make adjustments, and they are able to slow down the other offense. Now, it's going to be fun if they're able to come out and they're able to get a 3-and-out with the Chargers, and then they're able to go down and score. If the Chargers get behind, I don't think they have the firepower. Looking at their offense, I don't think they're going to have the firepower to be able to stick with Kansas City if Kansas City keeps their foot on the gas. Because when you look at the Chargers offense, they have Ladd McConkey. Yes, they have Keenan Allen. Yes, they have Quentin Johnston, and I get all that. But those guys aren't going to be players that are going to threaten you. At least in my mind, from what I have seen, Keenan Allen isn't the same receiver he was 2 or 3 years ago with the Chargers. Quentin Johnston hasn't taken a step forward that you would hope that he would take over his time with the Chargers. Is he a starting wide receiver? Yeah, because they don't have somebody better. I don't think that this offense from the Chargers is going to be great this season. But the other issue that they always run into is, can their offensive line protect Justin Herbert? And with Trey Pipkins being your right tackle, that's potentially a problem. This Chiefs team and this Chiefs offense and this Chiefs defense are going to be a lot of fun to watch, and we're going to get a huge idea of what they're going to be and what they can be in 2025 when this league year kicks off with the Chiefs playing the Chargers on Friday night. I absolutely cannot wait for this game. We have a lot more that we're going to be covering over the next couple of days. As I said, Matt Derrick will be back later this week. We're going to talk to the Locked On Chargers hosts, and Ryan and I will get you broke down and get you ready for week 1 matchup. Chiefs and Chargers will kick off on Friday night, and Brazil absolutely cannot wait. This game is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for listening today. We will talk to you tomorrow.